Ed here with the Digital Digest, and today I wanted to share a quick preview for the Sony Cyber-shot RX10 Mark III. Today, Sony announced this brand new offering, which does not replace the RX10 Mark II, but rather complements the lineup. And that's because, as you can see right here, it's essentially the same camera as the RX10 Mark II, but with a much longer variable aperture lens. We now have a 24 to 600 millimeter zoom, f2.4 to 4 aperture, so that's a 25x zoom, same 1-inch type sensor in the stack design that the RX10 Mark II and RX100 Mark IV both sport. You have slow motion video capability as well on board, up to 960 frames per second in 1080p. Granted, it's not full 1080p, but that is the advertising spec at least. And just a much more versatile camera for those of you interested in video, especially because now you've got a much longer lens to work with. And since this is a fixed lens camera, that is critical. Now, in the past, the Panasonic FZ1000 was in many ways the more advantageous choice in this field of bridge cameras based around 1-inch sensors because it had a 400 millimeter reach. Here now we have a 600 millimeter reach. Plus a more robust build quality, which is something that the RX10 always had in its favor. Dust and moisture resistance, not proofing. This isn't a weatherproofed body, but Sony does advertise that. But again, the big enhancement is that 24 to 600 millimeter range. Remember, the old RX10 or the RX10 Mark II, as it will still stand, topped out at 200 millimeters. So this is still, although a variable aperture lens, a very impressive one with very wide range. You also get that stack sensor, so Sony really just, I would say, responding to what consumers wanted, because I know there are many of you out there that had always wished the RX10 would have more zoom capability, and now you have exactly that. And with the onboard optical steady shot, Sony is claiming that it's equivalent to being 4.5 steps faster. So that's another thing to take note of. A definite advantage to this camera with the Bionz X processor that Sony uses throughout its entire lineup. Same stack design again, so this isn't that they've done something new with that, but more so that they've given us a brand new lens. And for those of you that are video-centric, I know for me personally, that was always one of the things I was hoping for, was that somehow the RX10 Mark II, at least in a refresh, would get a larger lens, and that's exactly what we got. Also, Sony pointing out here the up to 40 times slower than real time, and that's because, as I mentioned before, you can do up to 960 frames per second. They're pointing out specifically ultra dramatic super slow motion up to ultra telephoto, because you can use now a range that really was not found on any other camera fixed lens on the market. So Sony's got some firsts here to claim the title to, no question about it. The autofocus system already was very good in the RX10 Mark II and RX100 Mark IV, so I'm assuming here we're going to see only at least that performance, if not better. Of course, when we get to the end of the lens, I'm expecting a challenge, but because of that tight variable aperture, this should be a pretty stellar performer. In terms of other things that are noteworthy, I'm not seeing anything in regard to an upgrade in the viewfinder, but this is breaking news today, something that I don't think really anybody expected. Of course, Wi-Fi and NFC on board, so you will have access to the Play Memories store and be able to download all sorts of apps. Of course, S-Log, video grading, at least profiles online, I mean, so that you can take video grading into account at the beginning of your process rather than in post, which is a really nice complement to a camera like this. And that's why I say this is definitely a more video-centric RX10 than the Mark II that already exists. And I think that's exactly how Sony is marketing this camera. And it is a little bit heavier. After all, we have a larger lens. You can see dimensions right there. And really all of the specifications. The 4K video is still going to be limited to 29 and change minute clips, but again, having that additional reach with such a bright and fast piece of Carl Zeiss glass is something you simply will not find anywhere else. So I'm very excited about this camera. This is kind of what I've been waiting for, a mega zoom with a 1-inch sensor, but with all the build characteristics and lens characteristics that Sony and Carl Zeiss have to offer, something that the FZ1000 was really the only other answer to. But now, finally, Sony basically rewarding consumers that were looking for the same thing as the FZ1000, but with the Cyber-shot RX10 branding aboard. And that's exactly what we're getting here. So this is, in many ways, going to be one of the best, if not the best, bridge camera on the market. Expected to launch sometime in May, and it should be priced at $1,500 US, which is several hundred more than the RX10 Mark II right now. This will be compatible with all of the existing accessories out there, but you're definitely paying a premium for that brand new piece of glass, which I think is going to be welcomed by anyone, even those interested in the RX10 Mark II. And this is going to present an opportunity for those of you who do want to find the RX10 Mark II at a discounted price. Even though this is not replacing it, it will surely cannibalize sales. I mean, it does have a mic and headphone monitoring jack as well. The multi-port for charging, HDMI out. This is a robust bridge camera, and just like the very first RX10, a game changer in just about every way. Hope you enjoyed the video. Any questions or comments, please feel free to post them. Hit that like button, and please feel free to subscribe. Later.